Another area that you've had a lot of experience with is the process of getting buy-in from people to adopt new ways of working. What is important to make that work?
It's clearly important that you have support from the management from the top down. And it's important that you can show clear benefits to the people in that chain, right? The project, if it's not beneficial to the project leaders who are driving their teams to do things, right, they're going to be less inclined to be doing some of the things that will be helpful all the way through that time frame, right? So clear support from management, clear benefits to the people who need to be engaged in the system, help them understand what's in it for you. And those need to be big, because if there's not something in it for everyone, you're not going to get there. I think it's critical that you have hands-on training with the system, whether it's a process in general or it's a system that they're trying to use. People learn best, at least my experience has been, people learn best when they're doing something. So to help them learn this process as they're doing it hands-on is going to be what really sort of drives that into the DNA. And then having that management level, the highest level of management, whether it's in a division or at the corporate level, having the kinds of dashboards and reports that they're in meetings asking for, that they want to see, because it helps them, kind of pull this down to a succinct view of what's going on. And so if they're wanting it, they're going to be going back to their managers and saying, hey, we need this info. We need to have this. The people at that lowest level, who are the engineers on product development, for sure, they're the ones who, if you don't get them engaged at that lowest level, you get garbage in, you get garbage out, right? But they're the ones who least understand why I have to do this work. So in that communication and that getting people on board, it's to help them understand why this is so important. And so even if they're like, well, I don't want to do it, nobody wants to document things. And but if you have their managers saying, hey, I was in there and I didn't see this, having them engaged that way helps get those folks at that level, who actually have to usually do most of the input of things, for them to understand, hey, this is being looked at the president level.
What makes for a good portfolio review, in your opinion?
At that lowest level, where they're really closest to the businesses, theirs really needs to be all about what their pipeline is, right? What, not only the pipeline of new things coming in that need to be developed and go through that whole process, but equally important too in a portfolio meeting is to look at the things that have already launched, that are already out there, and are we hitting the numbers we're supposed to be hitting, that the team said, that the market said that it should produce, and then doing those as part of that portfolio review, kind of that whole, what's in our pipeline, what's mid development, and what's already launched, and be looking at all three of those pieces when they're doing a portfolio review, not just, what's new, or not just what's great, but the things that might not be hitting numbers. What is it going to take to get them back on track? Because it seems like companies launch and then just kind of assume the rest is going to happen. And that's just never the case, right? And so in a lot of cases, teams should be, before they even go to that final launch, have a list of the kind of things that say, hey, if we're not making these numbers by this time, what should the team be doing? What should the marketing people or the salespeople be doing to get those numbers back up? You need to focus on all three aspects of those in a portfolio meeting, because they're all important. Because if you're missing something on the end that's already launched, resources might need to get pulled into that, which means you might delay things on the front end that you're working to get through. So it's all about managing that that pipeline from beginning to end and the resources that you have to improve that pipeline. Pick the right things, do them right, and then actually do the work on the back end.
Right. Yeah, it's tempting for people to think about with an innovation portfolio, just looking at those kind of early stage things that are really disruptive and may not launch for a year or 3 or 5, right? That's kind of the stereotype I find of innovation portfolio management, but it really is the entire spectrum of investments before, during, and after launch that people need to be monitoring and prioritizing in ways that are relevant to each type.
Yeah. And so again, I'd go back to, if you have a system that's helping them do that, that's a much easier thing to actually address in a portfolio or pipeline review, right? Because instead of running around to everybody to try to see what's going on, like run to my marketing people to see how we're doing there, to be able to have dashboards, for instance, for a business that might have all of those pieces, right? It's going to have the things that are in their hopper, what order those are in, what's coming up next, and it's going to have the stuff that's in the middle and what state it's in and what kind of extra resources do we need to stay on track with. And then something that would show the ones that have launched in the year or 2 years, how those are doing, right? And if you can have a dashboard to really use to facilitate those conversations, you won't just do the fun stuff, which is, ooh, what's this new stuff coming out, that sort of thing. So I think it's really important in those to have the kind of information available for people, not just for those reviews that they're doing, but for everybody to sort of be getting on the same page.
What are some of the different challenges between the business unit level and the corporate level? And are there opportunities at that business unit level that are a little bit different that you don't have to worry about when you're focused at the corporate level?
Really, the first 20 odd years of my career were really around, being embedded in these teams and running these teams and learning this process and learning all the business pieces. The difference between what they're focused on and looking at and what someone at the corporate level is looking at are really two different things, because the businesses are really looking at, what's my hopper of things that I know we're very close to the customers, and our focus is in getting new products out and growth, right? Developing that growth. At the corporate level, we're looking at this really from that really big picture. So at a corporate level, the corporate VPs and such aren't necessarily looking down to the detail level that the divisions are. So they're, if I would say that they're using the system at that, populating it really, right? The system and what's going on and what's happening. But when you take that all the way up to the corporate level is putting them all together and now looking at that and going, okay, from this bigger picture, where have we been more successful? Is this division more or better at this than that division, and what are they doing that's differently, so we can bring that into other divisions? That's kind of one aspect of it. And then the other aspect of it is for the VPs in the company at the corporate level to be able to look at that broad picture. Where are we seeing our growth is going to come from in the next few years based on, right? Because at the corporate level now, they want to be able to understand how many new things are going to be launched in this next year, and what does that look like, and what does that mean? So at a corporate level, they're not so much looking at the resources, and they're not so much looking at is this product ready to be released, right? Their corporate level is just looking at that much bigger company strategy and whether or not all of those plans are going to, meet the strategy that we have in place.